Hi, my name is Tebo, but you can call me TheMedGuyT, and welcome to my channel. So today I've decided to share my personal story on how I got into medical school. I know I did a video about how to get into medical school, but this one won't be a how-to video, but more of my story on how I applied and everything that I did the year that I applied. Yeah, hopefully it's going to be a condensed story because it can be quite long, so I'm going to try to keep it very brief and short. So hopefully you and I together will make it all the way until the end of the video. Yes, so let's get right into it. So the year was 2015 that I was applying with the intention of getting in. Yes, I was applying before then, but I feel like in 2015 I did a lot of things differently. So the year started actually on a high. A friend of mine, I remember, that called very well. Moleboheng called me first week of January, and then she was like, "Hey friend, Cops called me and they've offered me a place into their program, and you know what? Throughout that call, we were so excited. We were laughing, we were crying, and we were prophesizing all the good things. The mere fact that, you know what, it was something that she wanted so much, and that door had finally opened. And I remember I dropped that call and I was so happy. And in that moment, I knew that, you know what, God is in the business of answering our calls now. Here was somebody that I shared this amazing journey with. And finally, you know what, after all those years of applying, of going through a BSc degree, of going through an honors degree, was finally accepted into a medical school. And you know what, it was amazing. I was with her on the first day of school, and I could see the fire in her eyes, and the passion and her happiness, and she somehow transferred all of that to me. And from then onwards, then I was like, you know what, I'm also going to reapply now. And I was applying with intention. You know, when you want to know what is it that you have been doing wrong the previous years, and what is it that you can do differently in this year. And I feel like that was something different that I did. So one of the first things that I went about doing, because applications don't open in January, so you have a window period between January and March to decide, because now in March the applications open about April, and then they close in late May and late June for other schools. So in between those times, before the applications open, I went through the prospectus of all the medical schools that I wanted to apply to. But now the thing about prospectus are very good, but the informations in them are not very detailed. So for me, I needed more. I needed to know what are the selection criteria, what are the selection guidelines, how many students are this university is going to take, what is it that I need to do in my applications with each and every different school that I was going to apply to. And then I went and downloaded the faculty yearbooks. That's where all the information you'll get there. You'll get all the information about all the selection criteria. You get all the information about the curriculums of the different schools. So I equipped myself with all the knowledge, so I knew exactly what each school wanted. I knew the number of students that they were going to accept for the next year, which was 2016. And yeah, so I prepared myself. And when the applications opened, usually for me before then, I always had the thing of applying quite late. So you would have a thing of 2 days before closing date, and that is when I'm busy online applying and all of that. But now in 2015, I literally applied first week of every school. So I feel like I was probably one of the first people to apply, because the application would open, let's say, on a Monday, and on Tuesday I'm already there applying. I remember with Stellenbosch, I applied on the first week, and within the same week they said to me, please send us your supporting documents. And one of the things that I wanted with their supporting documents was a motivational letter. And you know what, that was quite tricky, because the thing about writing a motivational letter is that you need to get it right, because for one, you don't know who the person who's going to read your letter, what kind of person they are. Because so now I couldn't write this great story about I'm going to save the world and all of that, because what if my letter ends up in the hands of a pessimist and then they're like, I know, not realistic, and then they just put my letter to the side. So now I had to find the balance. I had to make sure that the letter is not too needy and desperate, because I was like, I don't know, I don't want to sell myself as that, and I was never gonna say something like I don't see myself doing anything else other than medicine. For me, if if I don't get this, I'll keep on applying until I'm 80 and all of those things. So because I wanted to strike the balance. I wanted my letter to showcase all my strengths. I wanted the letter to showcase my passion. And I wanted the person who was going to receive my letter to read it and be like, I have a bit of an idea of the kind of person that is writing this letter. So after I had written the letter, I sent it through, and then Stellenbosch application was done. I went on with the UP one, and for them it was straightforward. Actually, they just wanted my academic record from GovSys. They just wanted my matric result, and literally they never asked me to write any additional things. So the UP one was also done and dusted, put it to the side. I went with the VETS one as well. It was also less complicated, so straightforward. So within a week I had already applied for those three, and then now GovSys. So I was like, okay, let's now apply for home. And GovSys, actually, the one thing that made me not apply to them earlier on was the fact that they wanted me to write an MBT. And for me, the thing was, I was like, I don't know if I really want to write the MBT, because I've been out of metric for so long, and I didn't really believe that my math skills were still that good. But you know what? I still applied for courses. I then started studying for the NBTs. Actually, I literally sat down with maths past papers and started practicing some maths questions. And you know what? I practiced and practiced, and I remember on the weekend that I had to write my NBTs, two of my best friends were also writing, Debs and Dudu. They were quite supportive, actually, very, very, very supportive. We went and we wrote our tests this Saturday morning. We get there, we look very young. Of course, we do look very young. So we get there, and then we have the other students who are still in grade 12. Oh my goodness. The kids in grade 12, they reminded me actually of my days in matric, because they were so extra, and the confidence, and then they're working like, oh, we're going to medical school, and then Tina, we are just sitting there, and we're like, you know what, it's not actually that easy to get in, but anyway, we're not going to burst their bubble. So we went in, we wrote our English and quantitative literacy papers first. And then in the afternoon, oh my goodness, while we were writing the maths paper, that was a mess, because the kids literally left after 2 hours, because the paper was a 3-hour paper. We sat there for an entire period, which the duration of the paper, which was for 3 hours. We came out, we were like, oh, does this mean that those kids are that good in maths? And then we are so terrible in it. Why did they have to leave so early? And then we stayed there for the longest time ever. But you know what? After 3 weeks, I checked my NBT results, and guess what? I had passed all 3 components of the NBTs, even the maths. The one thing that I felt like, you know what, I'm not that good in maths anymore, but you know what, God pulled through, and it was amazing. Then from there, there was that quiet period whereby you have the period between end of June until end of July, early August, whereby you're still waiting for the results to hear from the medical schools. So for that period, it was just a thing of, you know what, there's nothing that you can do about it. There's nothing that you can do to prepare yourself emotionally for the replies. So you just soldier on, you continue with life. And then in that period, I started studying a bit of anatomy and physiology, because I was like, you know what, I knew that the VETS letter would come eventually. So I was like, as soon as they invite me, I would know the dates, but let me just start preparing now while I'm still waiting. So then I did that. And then I remember the day that I got a response from Stellenbosch University. They were actually the first people to respond to me. It was on a Wednesday, actually. A Wednesday. I remember I was in the Northwest at the time, in Volmaronstad. My cousin had passed away, and the funeral was in Lodewonstad, so I was back in the Northwest for the whole week. So this one random Wednesday, I get an SMS, and then they say to me that we're going to be inviting you shortly for an interview based on for your interview for the application that you made with the university for the Faculty of Medicine and Health Sciences. You know what? I still don't remember. I forgot the SMS, but I know the contents of it. It was literally them saying, you are going to get an email. We are inviting you for an interview. And right there, my excitement, I was so happy because I had studied the yearbook, so I knew exactly what that meant. I knew that, and being invited to an interview meant that you had been provisionally shortlisted, so your chances of getting in were now high. So you know what, my excitement, I remember telling all my friends, you know, when you call them, it was as if I'm there already, I'm in. It was like one foot it's in, and it's like, you know what, they invited me for an interview, and I was like, you know what, usually you get those letters that says thank you for applying, we regret to inform you, and you're like, ish, but no, it's a whole totally different thing. And it was so amazing. I remember getting that email, and then I looked at it, and then they asked me, do you want to do a telephonic or a personal interview? And I was like, you know what, a telephonic interview, ooh, I was never gonna do that. And at the time I was using a BlackBerry, and you know those things reboot forever, so I was like, what if they call me and then I don't answer the phone, or there's bad network, or they just hate my voice and they don't take me? I was like, nope. So I was like, you know what, definitely I'm going to do that interview. I'm gonna come and do a personal one, because I was like, you know what, maybe if they see me and then my personality shines through the interview, then they might just be like, yeah, we want you. So it was that thing. So yeah, I started then preparing for that interview, because I was like, you know what, I'm not gonna walk up there unprepared. So I was like, what are the unique things about Stellenbosch University? So I was looking at the university, and then I found that they have a rural school, and at the time the rural school was like a thing for Stellenbosch. So I was like, if I'm going to ace that interview, then definitely I have to mention something about the rural school. But for me, it was not even a thing of lying in my interview. It was just a thing of, you know what, using what I love to make sure that I secure a spot. So I remember yeah, with the interviews questions, one of the questions was like, why would I do rural medicine? Because I was like, you know, I'm very passionate about it. And one of my answers was that the people from rural places are more likely to go back to rural areas to work there, compared to the people from urban areas. They would most likely stay in urban areas. And I feel like that was one of the answers that I gave that kind of like secured my space. I don't know, probably I don't know what they wanted, but I'm glad that happened. But anyway, backtracking to the week that I got that invitation to, so the following week I get an SMS now from University of Pretoria, and then they say to me, the selection results are available online. Please log in on student portal and check. So that was the SMS. So I go there, and I'm like, okay, let's just go see what does University of Pretoria have in store for me. And I get there, and it was right there in black and white. It was a thing of, you've been conditionally admitted. Please tell us if you're accepting or declining this offer. And wow, that was such an incredible feeling. I remember screaming. I was literally in a practical session, because I used to be a practical facilitator with the first year BSc students, and I was there with Dudu, and Dudu was like, you are shaking, because I was shaking as I was looking at that. And I remember like calling Muleboheng, and then she was like, you know what, I'm quite close, so I'm coming, I need to see that. And she came, and then, you know what, it was right there in black and white, and we couldn't believe it that just last week Stellenbosch was shortlisting me for an interview, and now this week UP is saying you are you are offered a spot, it's guaranteed. The ball is in your court. So yeah, we were so excited and I was happy and I couldn't just believe it that all of this was happening. And even though that UP had already offered me a spot and confirmed one, I was like, I'm still going to honor this interview with Stellenbosch because I wanted to come to Cape Town to see it. And I was like, you know what? I need to see what is Stellenbosch about because I've always wanted to be in Stellenbosch. I loved the university for the longest time. I loved their program and the curriculum that the medical school offers. So I was like, you know what, I'm going there. So I remember on the interview day, I was wearing my graduation day suit, and for me, that suit meant so much because the first time I was wearing it, it was on my graduation day, and I was so happy. And that suit looked quite decent. It's still very beautiful. So for me, it was the second time I was wearing it. So I was like, you know what, this is my lucky charm suit. So I walked up here in Cape Town. I was early for my interview. I went and I sat, and other people kept on coming, and they all went in, and then it was my time to go in. And to be quite honest, for me, the interview was so chill. It was so beautiful. The questions that they asked me, mostly they were fun. It was playful. I feel like for the most part, the faculty had already made a decision. They just wanted to see us. They just wanted to see the people behind the applications because they even told me that they read my letter. They read it, they loved it, and for them it was just a thing of they just wanted to see me. And I was like, yeah, let's do this. And I left the interview and I was like, you know what, if they saw me and they didn't really like me, then it's fine. I can still go to University of Pretoria and study that side. So I remember on the very same day, about 3 hours later, I got a call from Mrs. Van Veek, and then she was like, hey, is this Table? I'm like, yes, it is. And then she's like, this is Miss Van Veek from Stellenbosch University, Faculty of Medicine and Health Sciences. And I'm like, okay, yeah. And then she goes and then she's like, it is with great pleasure. You know, when it starts with great pleasure, you are taken. But if they start by thank you for applying, you know, okay, it's going downhill. So I was in a mall in public, but my emotions were again like, I was so happy. I couldn't believe it. I was like, you know what, God, all those years it was always we regret to inform you, but now suddenly I'm getting all this yes come. We want you, and it was so incredible. And I remember then after that, you know what, I was like, okay, Stellenbosch, good. University of Pretoria, good. That also came with their offer for me to go write the web. I was like, okay, I've already written it once, and I was like, you know what, I think 2 is enough. 2 medical schools are good. So I decided not to write the web test that year, and I don't regret it for me because I'm like, yeah, someone else voted and they got that spot. So for me, I'm happy. It's fine. So if there is one thing that I learned with that year was that, you know what, sometimes in life, things happen and you don't know why they are happening to you. Like bad things tend to happen to good people, but you know what, when God says to you that it is time for you to receive your blessings, you need to be ready. You need to be ready to receive your blessings, and you need to really, you know what, keep on holding on. Whatever situation that you are going through, you need to know that there is a breakthrough coming, and when that breakthrough comes, the blessings come in abundance. And sometimes God will just do the things to show you that He is still God. So sometimes things won't go as you plan, because the thing about life is that we have deadlines all the time, and that is one of the things that I'm trying to learn, to let go and let God do the things that He needs to do with me. And that goes beyond medicine, and it's in other areas of my life as well. And yeah, so now that I'm here, and I got accepted. The decision was a thing of now I had to decide between UP and Stellenbosch, which one was I going to go for. And for me, for the most part, I've always thought that I was going to end up at UP. But you know what, the one thing about Stellenbosch that you need to know is that the people who work here, they really love their jobs. They will reply to their emails when you send emails. They will be there to remind you to send things, because I remember they sent me a letter to say that I needed to apply for exemption of some modules, and I didn't do it for the most time because I didn't know which modules I would be exempted from. And the lady who works here kept on calling me, and even with the accommodation, I remember the first time I didn't secure the accommodation because I didn't have money to pay for the deposit, and because it was over 10,000, and they cancelled the accommodation after 30 days. And then in December they called me again to say, oh, we have accommodation for you now as well. And then they were still willing to allow me to wait until January before paying the deposit. So for me, that I was like, you know what, Stellenbosch, they do care about their students, and it's something that I've been seeing now, even when we are experiencing difficulties, when our mental health are hanging on by a thread. There's still services on this campus. There's people that you can speak to, and a lot of people here love their jobs. And for me, sometimes I feel like, oh, maybe I could have been better off at UP. But for me, it's, I go back to the day that I decided to come here, the happiness that I felt in my heart, and the fact that on that day when I made that decision, I was happy. So I would be like, you know what, I deserve to be here. I've earned my place in here. The degree and the program may not go as smoothly as I want it to be, but you know what, we make steady progress. Every day I learn new challenges, and every day I become a different person than I was the previous day. So yeah, so that is me rambling on and on and on. I even forgot that I was actually just telling you guys my story on how I got into medical school. So for me, yeah, so yeah, that is my story. So until we meet again in the next video, do take